Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. Today is Thursday, October 22nd, 2020, and I will have a guest joining me today, my good friend Caleb Cliff. I'm going to do the first 15 minutes or so by myself and then bring him into the fold. What to talk about today? You know what? Oh, wait, there's a debate tonight. It's amazing how I forget these things now that I've already voted. I already voted, so it doesn't really matter too much for me, you know? What's gonna happen? What's gonna change? It doesn't matter. It's already done in my book. Um, I wonder how many other people have already voted, and I wonder how these debates even impact people who are going to vote, who still haven't voted yet. I imagine they don't change many minds. They may convince people to vote or not vote. They may have a vote suppression or depression impact, but I wonder how much they actually change people's beliefs. Are people going into this truly undecided, thinking that they really don't know what these people believe or what they're going for? Maybe with new people, but with people that have been in office for 4 years or 6 years or even 2 years, especially someone who's been on television so much as Trump has been as president. I think most people, I would assume, have already formed their opinions about whether they like him or don't like him, or more accurately, precisely, whether they want him to be the president or not want him to be the president. Because I think we can like someone and still not want them to have a specific role. It's just, I don't think care and love for someone has that much to do with whether we think the person is good for the role that they're applying for. I can love many people and still not want them to build my house because I don't think they have any clue on how to build a house. Same thing with many aspects and many different jobs in society. So I may do a post-debate show just because I find those fun, and perhaps that'll be something coming up later tonight. But for right now, what I want to talk about, and I hope Caleb will join in on this, is this idea of relationship maintenance. It's something I've thought about a lot lately as I've felt overwhelmed. It's funny, I'm sitting here at home, I'm not doing a lot of things, and I'm sure many of you are as well. Not doing as much as you think you're doing. I have the impression I'm not doing that much. But I've realized that I spend a lot of my time and my energy trying to maintain conversations and relationships. Through WhatsApp, through Facebook, through email, through Snapchat, through Twitter, through LinkedIn, through many of these channels online where you have to maintain the relationship. So it's a new framing for me. I guess many of you have always seen relationships in this way as something that needs to be maintained and cultivated, and like a garden where you have to go out and you have to water it and you have to weed it and you have to plant new plants and you have to interact with the animals that are trying to get at the garden. There's a certain level of cultivation and maintenance required. And the more that I think about that, the more, relationships can deteriorate or start to fall apart if we don't do the upkeep. So if we're not taking care of it, spending time mending it, fixing it, repairing it, investing in it, then it can fall apart. And I guess I just started lately to realize how much of my time seems to go to maintaining and fixing these relationships, even if they're not super close relationships, but just maintaining so many relationships. Relationships have a certain amount, like a certain communication cadence. So is it communicating once a week? Is it communicating once a month? Is it communicating every day? Is it communicating multiple times per day? I've heard with some people, especially in romantic relationships, like, oh, he always texts me every morning and today he didn't text. Okay, so the relationship got into a every morning communication cadence, that rhythm of every morning we will text each other. And so that requires someone to keep up that pace. And sometimes that can mean that we're not maintaining other things. We're not keeping up the pace on other things that maybe we want to do daily. So perhaps we want to exercise every morning, but we get into a routine where we're communicating with these people every morning, or this one person. And so now we're faced with, okay, do I communicate with the person or do I go exercise? Which one am I going to maintain in the morning? Because if I don't maintain this habit and this rhythm, it will fall apart. It's interesting. I don't know. I just find it fascinating to look at relationships and look at activities more from this maintenance angle of things that we have built together as humans. And if we don't continue to maintain them, they will fall apart for environmental reasons. I was even looking at the word culture, and apparently the word culture comes from cultivate, very related. And it's about maintaining, like, and like agriculture and just culture in general. Like if you think about human culture, it's something that we have to maintain. If people don't maintain speaking a language, the language will start to deteriorate and fade away. If we don't maintain customs and traditions, then they start to fade away, or they start to change, or they break. So just looking at it from a perspective of maintenance, not only for the things that we look at the high level, like culture, but the one-on-one interactions that we have. And even just looking at the technical and digital maintenance that we do. So how many of you open up your phone every day to check the one app to clear the inbox of your email app, or to check all the notifications and respond to all the notifications? Like, maintain this, because if you don't, then the notifications, one, could get out of control. You have too many and it becomes hard to maintain and respond to. Or two, if you don't respond to that message that someone sent you, then now it can seem like you're ignoring the person. And it just depends on, again, the expected pace of the conversation you have with that person. If they expect you to respond immediately and you don't, they may get confused or frustrated, or may think that they've done something to make you angry. There's lots of things that can happen when we don't maintain the structure as we've built it. I think I've seen it with, actually, I saw on Twitter the other day, someone who I think, is pretty big in the tech space, worked at Google and worked at some larger companies in design, said that they took 30 days off of Instagram to just try to cleanse and clear themselves. And then when they went back onto Instagram, I think they posted, and they Instagram thought it was an impersonated account and blocked him out of his account. And so even our apps kind of get into the habit, or like have certain expectations of how we're going to maintain the relationship. And if we don't maintain it, then it starts to fall apart. I mean, I can, I talk about that with iFeelio, the app I built back in 2012. At some point, I lost the source code because someone stole my laptop and I didn't back it up. And actually, no, it's because I didn't back it up and the laptop crashed. But then the problem was the iOS changed and required 64-bit apps. And so the environment changed, which broke the app. And if I didn't maintain and repair the app, then it disappears. It kind of falls and becomes obsolete. And I think this happens a lot, not just with products and physical things, but also relationships and interactions that we have. And it's been a big breakthrough for me to see it in this light. Just trying to take stock of how many relationships am I trying to maintain at this point? And how does that interact with having love for someone? Can I feel love for someone and still not maintain the relationship with them? Can I change the dynamics of the relationship so it's not something that requires daily upkeep, but could be maybe monthly upkeep, or maybe once a year upkeep? And is that okay? Is that okay with both of us? Will the relationship last through that? I'm sure you've heard people talk about, The nice thing about having a best friend or very close friend is that you can go years without seeing them, and when you see them, it still feels the same. That doesn't work for all relationships, and arguably that doesn't work for best friends. Sometimes it we want more frequent interaction and more frequent attention than that. And sometimes when we don't have that, the connection starts to fade away. Maybe one person goes left and the other person goes right, and people start to grow apart. And without maintaining that relationship, it can be really hard as the relationship goes in different directions. And it's like, it's like a big wall or something growing in the middle of two gardens. It's like, well, now there's a wall. We didn't realize, we were just focused on our own gardens, and now we have this wall. And do we need to take the wall out? How do we deal with this situation? So maintenance isn't always just fixing something. Sometimes it's about removing things and barriers that get in the way. Sometimes it's about strengthening things so that they don't get broken so easily. If you look at like physical maintenance, like maintaining our body is strengthening the body so that if something were to attack us, we'd still be strong and fight through it. It's about learning how to protect the body. And so protecting it so that when things do attack the body, we deflect them. And it's also about repairing it. So when things break, we fix them. I mean, there's lots of different elements to maintenance. And I just wonder, how many relationships are you trying to maintain at this point? Could be personal relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships, professional relationships. Could be social media relationships where it's kind of like you have all these fans that you're interacting with or followers. It could be even like watching relationships, like, oh, I need to watch this show because I want to stay up to date with what everyone's talking about, whether it's a new, back in the day, it was Game of Thrones. So you have to watch Game of Thrones so so you're still on the same page with other people. How much is that trying to maintain our relationship with culture by just constantly being involved with it? One thing my good friend said to me a couple of years ago when I was thinking about going off Facebook, and I think I actually deleted Facebook around this time. He said, the challenge with getting off Facebook is that you're disconnecting from a strong part of culture. And that disconnection means that relationship to culture that I would have would start to deteriorate because new words would pop up or new phrases would pop up or new shows would pop up and new cultural references, and I wouldn't know. New ways of interacting would pop up and I would be out in the dark. And so it requires a certain level of cultivation, a certain level of repetition and frequency or depth, really, to strengthen that relationship. It's just, I don't know. I think I've spent a lot of the last couple of years trying to maintain my faith in humanity and maintain my love for others. And I think in a way that is conflated with maintaining relationships with others. And I don't think they have to be the same thing. I think we can love someone else, have love for that person, feel love for that person without talking with them all the time or spending time with them all the time or sending them messages all the time or spending money on them all the time. I think there are ways that we can, different things that we can maintain. Instead of maintaining the interaction with them, we can try to maintain the feelings towards them. And at least that's something I want to look at a little more, because I've found myself quite overwhelmed with trying to maintain so many relationships. I remember I had a friend who had something like 40,000 followers on Instagram, and she was very, very adamant about keeping up with the followers and replying to the messages and replying to the chats and this and that. And she said she got so burned out. It just took so much time and so much energy to maintain that account and to maintain the relationships with all those people. So I'm just wondering what's the sweet spot. So how to feel the connection without necessarily getting ourselves into lots of relationships that we have to maintain, or relationships that are so high intensity that we're not able to maintain all of them. On that note, I'm going to invite my friend Caleb in, who looks like he might have had a haircut. Did he get a haircut? Oh, let me turn my, you there, Mr. Caleb?
I am.
Oh, good to see you.
Yes.
Y'all shaved. You make me look even more scraggly than that.
Well, I had a wedding to go to, so I thought I'd tidy up a little bit. It was a bit everywhere.
Yeah. Oh no! Now when everyone had the hair everywhere, I felt more at place. But now it's like, oh, I'm that guy that still has it everywhere.
I'm still down with yours. I think yours is more interesting than mine. Was like an unsuccessful experiment, so it's all good.
Successful in some ways and not in others, maybe.
Yeah, well, the fun side of like going from an unsuccessful haircut to one that like an old standby is then all of a sudden you look good at,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I look good, but I look better.
No, looking smooth. No, honestly, that's part of it. It's like when I do cut this, I'm gonna look fine. Like, oh man, it's gonna look good, And it's almost the fastest way to improve my confidence, or to improve like one's confidence in their physical looks sometimes, or just in their capabilities. It doesn't require any exercise. It doesn't really require anything. I just sit there and like, it's like a former girlfriend of mine said that haircuts are like makeup for men. You get a haircut and you're like, whoa, you look like a different person.
Well, it's like currently you look like you're from the UP. Not so much the Detroit area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You live off the grid somewhere deep in a log cabin.
Not the suburbs where we carry out groceries. Oh, what's happening, my friend?
Well, someone apparently is deciding to do yard work right now. Gosh, what is happening? I'm working on an interesting animation campaign that what can I say about it? It's actually about California becoming its own sovereign nation. Yeah, and I will say, I don't want to diverge into it too much, but the makeup of it, the components of it that I am aware of are very interesting. I think a couple of the things I would say about it that are I really like a lot are, one of the ideas that they have is to give back land to indigenous peoples if this were to go through. So that would be I think a fair amount of the state. And then it is a non-capitalist movement. So it is not about money. It is about redistribution of the collective value of the state, if you will. Anyways, I'll probably bastardize the core components of it, but it coming into it a little naive. Now that I'm a bit more up to speed with it, it's it's a bold move, but I think there are some really strong components to it. The last thing I would say is it's to use as a kind of leverage, because California is such a one of the most resourceful states in the country, and does represent a huge chunk of the overall national GDP of the country. So they do have some pretty strong leverage, but we'll see. this is going to be, we're 4 years out from this actually going on to a ballot, if it does so. So it'll be some time.
Yeah, it's most countries don't like when parts of countries say they want to break off. So it's
oh yeah,
will be interesting, especially when the parts of those countries have lots of money and food. California grows the vast majority of food in the United States.
Yeah,
or at least specific types of food for human consumption.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think 20% is what 20% of the rest of the U.S. get their food from California.
And that's and in specific things, it's almost 100%.
So,
like almonds, almonds in the U.S. are almost all from California.
Exactly. Yeah.
Avocados in the U.S. are like either California or Mexico.
Right. Yeah. But it's coming into this, and even still, I'm taking a neutral position. I have a job, and that is to create an animation, and that's what I'm doing. But you can't help but learn more about what it is you're working. Well, I can't. Maybe some people can.
I mean, like I say before, I think everything is good and bad. It's just I sometimes jump in to talk about the bad sides when I think people are only talking about the good sides. Now, I'm not saying you're doing that, but I think sometimes in certain movements, people have a tendency to only highlight the good things and not talk about the potential negative or downsides to it. And maybe that's where I get myself into trouble. The I want to balance the the equation jumps in a lot. And people are like, "Oh, shut up! Like, we're just talking about the good stuff right now." I'm like,
right,
yeah.
Well, and everything's so interconnected that it seems like the building blocks of things at this point are so complex that you're going to have these inadvertent or indirect impacts from making any decision at such a scale as that who knows. I mean, but I think that's part of the idea, is like, because they recognize how powerful of a state they are, and so that's kind of, even if I think this doesn't become entirely successful, if they can use this as leverage to create awareness around other things, that would still maybe be considered a partial success. That's my guess.
Yeah, right? A negotiation tactic to say, listen, we're actually we're the ones with all the chips at the table. So listen.
Right. If you lose us for whatever reason, or if we somehow, if we choose to like implode our industry, I don't know what that would look like or why anyone would do that, but that would be, again, like a weird way of kind of like reminding people what California is capable of.
It's kind of like when Cuomo, governor of New York, Mitch McConnell was saying something about blue states, milking all the money in this and that. He's like, you understand that New York puts more money into the federal bank, or like the federal taxation pool, than Kentucky does. We actually put money into it, like net, and you take money out of it net. So you understand that New York is maybe, pretty much keeping Kentucky afloat. Just to remember.
Yeah.
Just to remember, we are helping you out,
But that's like literally what I was just doing before jumping onto this. And then otherwise, as I've mentioned to you, like working on a lot of music and a music video right now, which I hope to have done soon. And I'm gonna vote early, I think tomorrow, and not do anything for Halloween. There you go.
Nice.
Oh, maybe I'll wear a mask.
Yeah. What?
I said maybe I'll wear a mask.
Yeah.
But I do that every day now. So
you could put like little like Halloween. You can put like a jack-o'-lantern in the mask.
Right.
Jack-o'-lantern mask. Yeah. I already voted. My family already voted. My parents and I. And it feels so nice. I was just talking about earlier how there's a debate tonight, and I already voted. So
yeah. Well,
all these advertisements that come on, it's like, okay, do your best, but I already voted, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk much about it, but I will say that,
I can see the reflection of your screen in your glasses, so
yeah,
careful what you're looking at.
I'm
I
adjusting.
need you to pull
But
up.
it's all you. I'm actually trying to adjust it so I look a little more at the camera while I look at
Uh-huh.
you. I just don't think the debates really have. I don't know. The man, President Trump, tends to make everything a circus, and I'm not saying that to be funny or amusing or even diminish him. It's just he doesn't have the typical, if you will, sense of what any other president or person in politics will usually bring to the table in that kind of space. And it's like, I don't know, it's not of interest. It's a mockery of the actual event. And I think that happened in the first one. He refused to do a digital one. He made a mockery of the town hall. I just don't. And the other thing I will say is, if there are people who are still undecided, then I don't know what's going to help them decide.
For me, it's more like watching a Michigan versus Ohio State football game. It's like people have already decided which teams they're on. They just want to see each other hit each other. You know, they just want to see people hit each other. Like,
it's more like a boxing match than
it's a boxing match. It's probably even more like, as my dad mentioned the other day, world WWE wrestling. And I said, you understand that Trump hired Linda McMahon to be the head of the Small Business Administration, who is Vince McMahon's wife.
Like, no shit. Wait, is that true?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Back when he first came in 2016, yeah.
Wow.
2017, yeah.
That's
so it's like, yeah, it's highly connected. I mean, it's
not. I shouldn't even be that surprised, but it's still just like it's just another fantastic detail.
And this plays into an episode I had a couple days ago where I was talking about the difference between storytelling and governing. Mm-hmm. That in storytelling, we care much more about the story and less about the accuracy of the details. Because you need the overarching story. You got to tell the story. It's got to flow. You can't pause. It's the comedian said, it's like the guy who tells the story, the non-storyteller is the one. It's like, oh, there's this guy from Australia, or was it New Zealand? Oh, shoot. Maybe he was from Singapore. Anyway, so this guy went to the store, or was it the school, or it's like, what? It doesn't matter. Just tell a story.
Right.
And so the people who are very good at telling stories often don't pay attention to these details. But the people who govern very well do, and they have to. And governance, in almost like this idea of maintenance or this building of things, you have to pay attention to the details, otherwise the thing falls apart.
Case in point, I guess, what we're living through.
No, exactly. But exactly. But the challenge being that when somebody runs for office, it's about storytelling.
Oh, absolutely.
We elect people typically based on storytelling, not based on their ability to manage details.
Well, and
the people who manage details typically are very boring when they tell stories.
Right. And I think the argument easily could be made that whether you agree with him in any way, shape, or form, he entertains people.
He's very entertaining.
Yeah.
He's very good at getting attention and getting the camera on him. Yeah. Very good.
Well, and I think I heard the number since he's been in office, there have been, I can't remember what an actual number is, but it's over 1,000 books have been written about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's captivating in that way. Captivates our attention.
Yeah.
And to do so, telling truthful things all the time doesn't captivate our attention that much.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're ever a fan of Ren and Stimpy, but there's a great episode where Stimpy is being tempted by the narrator, and they're in some room. I can't remember the actual context, but there's a shiny red button, but it's like it blows up the world if he touches it. And the narrator is just like, can he prevent himself from touching the shiny red candy-like button? And then of course he can't. And then the episode ends with you just see the earth just exploding. But that's sort of like, Trump is the shiny red button that is exploding everything, and the media are the finger of Stimpy, unable to prevent themselves from touching the red button to cause the explosion. The recent On the Media from this past weekend was talking about how, like, the way the media is covering the debates and covering all the the run up to the actual election is much more reflexive than it is actually critical, meaning they're still following all the same things they would in any past election, but by all means anybody could tell you that this one is very different for a few reasons. But one of the biggest ones is because Trump, he doesn't follow any rules. And someone even said that typically when you are following the debates and things is you'll highlight someone's gaffes. And he said President Trump's entire presidency is a giant gaffe. And when you highlight Biden's gaffes, it's kind of like, well, but that is a little disingenuous because you have this other president who just rifles out lies and misinformation. And you have Biden, kind of easy to pick on in some ways, but there's no comparison. And it also falls short because of you just can't use the same metrics anymore. But yet we still are. And I think that's kind of troublesome and often basically derails us and puts our attention on things that aren't important. That's all.
Yeah, it's like the person who lies all the time, we say, yeah, but they lie all the time. But the person who doesn't, we castigate them and kick them out of community because they lied once.
Right.
And it comes down kind of like the storyteller is allowed to lie. They're telling stories. They're the hype man. They're the ones who we know they exaggerate. They lie all the time. It's fine. It's not totally fine, but that's who they are. But the person who builds stuff, like the person who's really in the nitty gritty, like the engineer who's very focused on the details, they're not allowed to lie.
Right.
Because we need them to not lie.
Right. Well,
but these people, they lie. This is what they do.
The bridge builder.
Yeah. The bridge builder can't lie.
Can't.
Because if he lies, people die.
Yeah, exactly.
Directly.
Yeah.
But if the storyteller lies, people don't die indirectly. Sorry, they die indirectly.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't. We picked up on a very different path from where you started.
Yes, but I can tie it back in. You want to tie it back in? Let's see. It's about to maintain things. So governance is really about maintenance a lot. And I think this idea of maintaining things requires us to be honest and requires us to do a lot of focus and time. Trump, somebody who is typically working in, I would say, one-off real estate sales most of the time. Mm-hmm. Maybe not one-off. Maybe there is more repeated interactions than I think. But real estate has a tendency to be one-off.
Yeah.
It doesn't require as much maintenance of relationships.
Mm.
To maintain a relationship requires a lot of apologies. It requires honesty. It requires forgiveness. It requires focus and attention and two-way communication, speaking and listening. There's a lot of stuff that goes into maintaining a relationship. And in certain fields, people don't have to maintain relationships as much. They start new ones and then they end them, and then they start new ones and then they end them, and
Well, and it's true. Like, too, you could argue or just point out, highlight what Trump was doing as a businessman before becoming president, and I think it kind of what you're getting at. It wasn't much about maintaining. I mean, it was maintaining a persona. But beyond that, it wasn't maintaining relationships so much.
And yes, there's still an element of maintenance. It's just maybe we're not maintaining the long-term relationship with a person or a customer, but we're maintaining the brand image.
Right.
And for Trump, maintaining the persona and the brand image it seems very, very, very important.
Oh yeah, that's definitely that's the most important thing I think to him is the branding of himself.
Yeah, the story.
Yeah.
Maintaining that story, because when people come into his life and realize that this story is not true, they leave and he doesn't maintain that relationship. but he
Right.
maintains the story.
Well, and I think when you have so many new appointments happening in one administration, I think Trump broke the record like a while ago, and also has the largest number of acting positions as opposed to actually fully
That are open. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
acting, and then there's a lot of open positions. There's a lot of people who have left positions.
Right. Well, and it's true, but that actually no, that's a very interesting kind of circling in this idea of maintenance is he's doing all that he can, even with his greater body. You know, certain positions are filled or certain acting positions have been put in place, but all to support this narrative, not to support any kind of greater connection he has with his audience. I mean, well, to some extent, yes, but not because it's a reciprocal relationship with his audience. His audience likes the arc of his narrative, and that seems to be what they want to see. And so he makes sure that show goes on.
And that's kind of the structure of broadcasting. Like
Sure.
in many ways. And Trump is at least for the last couple of years, has been a Twitter broadcaster. He does. And I was talking about this earlier, this idea of maintaining social media. And so like for him to maintain presence and attention on Twitter, he needs to tweet at the same frequency, almost the same frequency, which is pretty often. Yeah. And he has to tweet with a certain level of emotion or certain way to get people's attention.
Yeah.
And he has to retweet certain people. You know, he has to maintain this. If he stops doing it, it'll start to deteriorate. People will stop following him and people will start paying attention to other people. And the algorithms will stop promoting him so much. And so there's this maintaining the Twitter relationship, you know, the relationship with the platform itself.
Well, and it begs the obvious question so is that what the leader of the U.S. should be? So one of his foremost concerns?
It's personally, I don't think so.
Good. I don't think so.
Some people are very excited. They're like, wow, hey, we got Tariq is chiming in. Hey, Tariq. We'll say hi. Hey, there we go. Love you too, man.
Yo.
No, I think some people have said they're very excited to have a boring president. Meaning a president, I would say, that's more focused on governing or more focused on maintaining the relationships within the U.S. government with the employees, but also with the other governing nations, more so than with a social media platform and the fans on social media.
Right. Well, it's right now we have. I'm not going to say that. I'm just thinking about and kind of making a metaphor of the Wizard of Oz. Return back to the wizard behind the curtain. You know, we don't need to see you that much. Just do a good job, right? You know, help get let's refortify some things. Let's maybe get some new policies, kind of get a more actual democratic feel ramped back up into this government. Whereas right now we just have a showman who really doesn't do anything other than maintaining the show.
He's maintaining the show, precisely. And I would wish that he would rather maintain the relationships with the other presidents and leaders of the world. That he would spend his time communicating, apologizing, mending, repairing, strengthening relationships with those people over the relationships with the people that follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, he feels like he's at the top of a mountain, and anyone who gets close to the top, he just kind of pushes them back down.
Well, it's hard to maintain relationships.
It is, well, but especially if you have no interest in the people.
Well, because
he's never showed that he has any interest in any individual for who they are, unless they help support, again, his story or his finances or his future investments or whatever. He doesn't care.
It's interesting. So I was going to say that often we don't have interest in other people who we first think don't have interest in us. So I think there is the I don't think these people care about me, so why should I care about them response. I think a lot of times we're actually reacting to our belief of other people's belief on us, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, but I do think Trump is a special case of.
I think he's been going through this most of his life. Like,
Yeah, oh,
he doesn't
yeah,
believe that people care about him. I don't think my dad cares about me or my
yeah,
mother or my relatives or this or that. So screw them all. That
yeah.
kind of like,
He's a bully for life, and and the thing is just to say, I think I've said this to you and other times over the past 4 years, but well, I'll start with the first thing. I remember when he was running the first time, and I just remember thinking, I was like, I don't want a president who does not appear to have any friends. That to me always just seemed like a telltale sign. I was like, I don't think I can ever, like, amongst many other things, but that was just a kind of a simplified way of looking at the way he goes about, his life. But then beyond that, oh crap. The first thing I was going to say just totally left my brain. Anyways, anyways, go ahead.
so I would say with the friends thing, it's that relationships take maintenance. What I really reflected on the beginning of this is that I'm realizing how many just conversations I have with people and how to maintain that conversation and to maintain that relationship takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Mm-hmm. And that's even if things are going well. Just to like, you have to talk. Like if you get into a rhythm of talking once a day, then you're talking once a day. If you get into a rhythm of talking once a week, then you talk once a week, and people have different paces. Sometimes people get in, especially romantic relationships where like, oh, he texts me every morning. Well, you have to maintain that, because if you stop texting, it's like, oh, what's wrong? Maybe he doesn't like me anymore. Maybe he's angry at me. It's like, oh, geez. So it's like we get into these rhythms and we build these structures without necessarily knowing it. And then we have to maintain them so they don't fall apart.
Do you think that he sees his Twitter as like a giant group chat?
Probably. But I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, I don't know. I don't do Twitter very well. I mean, I don't know if there's a doing it well, but I don't tweet a lot. And so I don't know what it's like to experience the tweeting to millions of people. Well,
no, but to your point, though, in terms of rhythm, right? The tempo of his tweets is like that of whatever, his one big collective friend that is his base or whatever.
And he has to check in, and he has to check the notifications, and he has to send a message to let them know that he's still there. He has to, it's like we would do in a group text or a one-on-one text.
Right.
It's like, hey, I got to send them a message to know I'm thinking about them. Oh, I got to send them a link so they know I'm thinking about them.
Yeah. Sorry. Now it just came back to me what it was that I was going to say before in coupling with the friend thing, is that I am not in any way, shape, or form jealous of the man. I don't wish to have his power. I don't wish to have his affinity for just having a camera on him. I think it's the way in which he finds who he thinks he is, like where he finds himself is in this very kind of plastic, demeanor that he thinks is the way in which to kind of boast his, his alpha maleness or what. I don't know exactly. I don't believe his story is so small and so simple that I'm like, that's not, he doesn't know himself. And I'm not jealous at all of how disconnected he is from himself. Other than this plastic idea of what he feels like is whatever audience he has latches onto, power, money, fame, riches, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, okay, well, you're a man of such little substance.
Well, it's just he's maintaining other things, and maybe that's just the way to look at it. At least I feel better when I look at it that way. He's maintaining a story. He's maintaining a brand, and that he prioritizes maintenance of that over maintenance of other things.
But I
Because
don't.
a lot of times in relationships, if I'm trying to maintain a story and we get into a fight, if I care about the relationship more than I care about the story, I apologize and I change my perspective on the story. It's the person who has a kid who, ends up being gay or transgender or something like this. And then at first is like, oh no, I'm very against transgender. I'm very against it. Oh shoot, well my kid's transgender. Do I lose my kid or do I change my story? But somebody who maintains that story at all costs loses a lot of people in their life.
Yeah. I think they said it, they live by the guillotine. No, just meaning always just severing off whatever doesn't work for them,
Yeah.
And I don't know. That phrase is not a known phrase. I
was like, I've never heard of that one. Maybe it's a French thing. I don't know.
No. Yes. But and it's hard not to just do a direct comparison to what we previously had, and I don't think any person is perfect. I definitely think Obama had flaws. I definitely think he made some mistakes while president, but he had a demeanor and he had a certain civility about him that just felt more, presidential. Just what I would like to think our leader is trying to be. But also, he cried. He showed empathy. He cultivated, I would say, healthy relationships with as much as he possibly could, and also and listened to things and made adjustments according to what he learned, and was adaptable and also very thoughtful. And it didn't need to be Obama. He happens to be someone like that. But even if Obama was a Republican, but came with all of those same qualities, I'd still be like, yeah, that's what I hope for, at least. He didn't. If there was an Obama brand, that wasn't the thing in front of everything else. And I just feel like, I don't know, Trump brand is very basic.
Well, it's this competing of things that we want to maintain. I at least this is the framing I'm going with now to see how it reflects on my life as well. But just like looking at Obama, I think Obama strongly wanted to maintain the culture of the presidency, the norms and the traditions of the presidential office, which is something that requires maintenance. It requires doing things that one may not want to do, but to make sure that the thing doesn't fall apart.
Oh, for sure.
But balancing that with other things as well. Maintaining relationships with other people, sometimes that goes against what the office says I'm supposed to do. Or maintaining a story of who I am sometimes really goes against the traditions of the office. And so really trying to balance these relationships that we're building and maintaining. And I think many presidents have focused very strongly on maintaining the culture of the office, where Trump has not.
I wonder. No, and I think I presume that's one of the reasons why his supporters so fervently like him, because even if he didn't drain the swamp or whatever, some of the other things he said he was going to do, he's completely shaking still, rattling, I guess is the better word, what government feels like, what government looks like, what is, what you're going to expect from that position. And I think that's what people are like, okay, yeah, this is a populist leader.
That's the story that he's maintaining. The story is, I am a businessman. I am not a politician. They are politicians. The former presidents have all been politicians. That means they're bureaucratic, slow, and corrupt. It's this story. And so he can't like abide by a lot of the presidential traditions and still maintain that story, because then he's like, you said they're all corrupt and slow, but you're still doing all the stuff that they did. Like,
Well, but
you still hold respect for what they did. It's like, you're not allowed to hold respect for that, because
he's like New Coke.
I think you got me a generation on that one. I know of it in theory, but not viscerally.
New Coke really didn't do well when it came out. You know, they sort of redid the formula or whatever of Coke and rebranded a little bit. But all in all, it was just, you know, it was a flash in the pan. I don't know. I think, you know, what's interesting to me, setting aside him as president, I mean, well, not setting aside him as president, setting aside what it means for future presidencies, I think more of what this represents in a lot of ways is a reflection back on the age in which we presently exist. And I think that this insane conflation of digital media, social media, of the internet and its many, many, many pathways, its many interpretations, its many falsehoods, the misinformation, complete integration with the entire planet at this point. You know, and the largest population that's ever lived on this planet. All of these things, and the quote unquote American dream, and what is supposed to be important to us, what is supposed to be some kind of guiding light for how we determine to live our lives. I don't know. I mean, and I only say that because I'm like, I don't, if I were to just show up as an alien that understood English and landed in this country and spent the last like year here, I don't think I would have a clue what the point of this country was. I think it feels very alien and foreign to what I remember, even during the Reagan years, is that there was still an agenda, whether or not I would have agreed with it back then. But I was too young to know, but it still felt like, you know, white picket fence, 2.5 kids. Like he could highlight some things. Beats me what in the world Trump wants for every family or for a company, for anything. I have no idea.
What comes to mind is that maybe Trump is spending a lot of time maintaining the story of Trump, whereas other presidents maintain the story of the United States, the story of America.
Yeah.
There was a recent ad by Biden campaign. I forget that Sam Elliott, I think, was the actor that voiced it. And it just came out, I think, during the World Series. And very powerful show of Americana. And I think that's what's been missing from a lot of the conversation, a lot of the storytelling that I see. It's make America great again, but what's the story? How is America great? You know, like really telling that story and maintaining that story, because I think stories require maintenance and attention and refreshing and you know, revitalization and all these different things, right?
Well, I would say a little more nuance too.
Yeah, I'm confused. What do you mean?
No, just like if you hear, I don't know. I've just heard clips from some of his rallies and things, and it's like, you know, it's a lot of flash in the pan, a lot of different subjects. But again, there isn't any overarching theme. He's not like, and that was, I think, what I was listening to was talking about. It's like you'll get like a 4-second moment where he kind of touches on something that's a part of his future plan. Otherwise, he's just entertaining. But again, like, to maintain his brand is very simplistic. You know, he gets a few kind of cheeky laughs in. He makes fun of a few people. He makes weird gestures about, you know, the fact that he will not exit office easily. But you don't. But again, you still don't get a single thing about what America, in a sense, is to him, other than this just very cheap plastic brand. That in a sense, it makes him one of the most disposable presidents ever.
It's really helped me because I was saying that he was a storyteller, but I've also talked about him being very good at self-promotion. And I think it's that attachment to his personal story that means he doesn't attach so much to the American story. I don't know. Like when I'm looking at it, it's like, yeah, he's not telling the American story. He's telling the Trump story.
Very much.
And how the Trump story interacts with the bad parts of the American story.
Right.
Oh, the government's corrupt. The media's lying to you. Everyone hates you. And here I am to save the day.
Right.
Instead of the government's corrupt, the media's lying to you, and what we could do is restore this country, because that's not what this country is about. This country is about being honest. This country is about being diligent, hardworking. That we open up and share ourselves with other people, and we help each other out when they're in times of need. That's what this country's about, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I don't hear that it's shitty and now it's great. And why it's great. I just hear it's shitty and I'm going to make it great again, but I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to make it great again. I'm just going to give you very cursory over like, oh yeah, life is good.
But isn't that part of the magic? Sort of, feed the underlying idea of how there is a better place. It doesn't ever matter if I reveal it to you, as long as I keep telling you we can do better. You're going to kind of
I think the best magicians also like go and really describe it. I think the best speakers go into detail. It's the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream, really going into depth about what it might look like to live in that future.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly, you speak to the very simplistic, tiny, very thin facade veneer of a human that he is. I mean, in this way.
I would say that his communication style. I don't want to say him as a human. I just know how he talks on Twitter and on TV.
No, I don't think a lot of people like to discredit his intelligence. I actually don't think he's that unintelligent of a person. I think he simplifies because that's what he found, that's what he's discovered works for him. But I don't think he's actually that dumb. I think he's very stubborn. He's very much adheres to kind of his principles, and that can come across as being, less informed. But I think those are choices he makes. It's not that he couldn't retain this information. It's not that he couldn't do more with it. That's just his style.
The biggest thing that I think frustrates me a lot about what's going on with Trump is that thinking of relationships and maintaining a relationship or a product or a company or a story and stuff like this. It seems like I have spent so much time over the last 4 years maintaining a conversation about Trump, and it has stopped me from maintaining other things in my life.
Yeah,
how much
a lot of people will say
opportunity cost has there been in just spending time talking about Trump? What else could I have done if I didn't spend so much time with my relatives talking about Trump? I could have talked about my relationship with my relatives.
Well, you could say that this is the shiny object era.
I could have heard of stories about what happened to them when they were young. I could, I can still do this. I'm not blaming him wholeheartedly for this. It hurts me to think about how much time I have spent talking about him and his behaviors.
Oh,
and because it means I haven't spent that time doing other things.
Oh yeah, no, and I think, but the interesting thing though too is how much did you pay attention before he was elected to politics and to things within that wheelhouse?
Like nothing. Like a little bit when it comes to like some things with Ferguson and Black Lives Matter movements and things with the NSA that were popping up. But barely anything. I didn't know what position meant what in which office. I didn't know that much. I knew the balance of branches. That was about it.
Well, and so in that sense, his presidency though has caused you to beef up your awareness of governance and how.
Oh no, fantastically.
Okay.
And how has that affected my awareness of my relationships with the people I love? And how has that given me almost a distraction away from trying to repair relationships that have broken? How much has that taken away from the time that I could have spent building a company, or I could have spent maintaining a house, or all these different things?
Right. Well, and but do you feel though that, let's say he gets another 4 years in office, are you going to choose to maintain this level of attention on him, or are you going to actively try to refortify other parts of your life?
I want to actively try to refortify, and I can feel myself torn in this conversation, in that I wanted to talk a little bit about Trump and how this concept applied to him, but I also felt a bit annoyed, like, why are we still talking about Trump? Can we not talk? You know what I mean? Not blaming you, but also like kind of like, why do I find myself stuck on this conversation so often?
But
you know what I mean?
Honestly, that's a really important, because I mean, believe me, Jim, I mean, what is ironic about this is that so many people, who will happily, share that they're not a fan of his, will go on and on and on about him. And so what's interesting is, and if you think about it in terms of what his version of victory or winning or whatever you want to call it is like, doesn't matter the news, doesn't matter why there's attention, as long as there is attention. And it's fascinating because honestly, he has built or furbished this incredible system of keeping that going,
maintaining that attention. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I do think I don't love talking about him, but as a sense of reflecting on this very thing that you're talking about, I think that is important, because I think that's true for many people. And I find I only get into these or get into the space of overly thinking about him, if you will, when it comes to a conversation like this. I try to stay creative and be doing many other things that don't really lean politically. But that's the crazy thing. The Brian Lehrer Show, which I listen to pretty regularly, there is not a single episode that does not mention him. Like, NPR cannot stop talking about the guy. So it's not only your, personal interest. I mean, it is just an unstoppable systemic thing at this point. It's like a machine has just completely all of its direction is just going towards this one place. So it speaks to a much bigger issue of, even like, we have no discipline. We have no ability to retract ourselves from something that irritates us or we find difficult. And I think you're highlighting a different kind of attention deficit disorder, like a hyper attention to something, not focusing on what's important, not treating, taking care of the relationships in your lives, or even hurting existing ones because you're like, oh, well, you support this guy and I feel this way, so you're out of my life. Anyways, so I agree with you. It's hard, but at the same time, that in itself, so.
Oh, you froze. Oh, you're still there. Oh, you froze. No, you're still there.
You did too.
It's like we're watering and weeding the garden without even realizing it. We're taking care and nurturing this attention without even realizing it.
Oh, fully. We're so wrapped up in it. I mean, it is just an avalanche from day one.
What's one of the quotes I like the most? This guy, Elie Wiesel, is a former Holocaust survivor, wrote a book called Night. Said, the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. And so even getting hate is still a form of attention.
Yeah.
And it's the kid. I was the kid like, hey mama watch, and the mom doesn't watch, and the kid starts like pulling on the mom and hitting the mom. Hey, pay attention to me.
Right. Right.
I want attention more than I want anything. It's the attention is what I crave. Being ignored really hurts.
Well, and that seems like it kind of if you're an unloved child at age 6, right? And so you punch your sister just so you can get that attention you can't get in the way that you really want it.
Yeah.
In like a loving and kind way. And so when you realize, and when you get enough things in your life to teach you that fills you up enough, or if your ego is what you end up relating to as opposed to your heart, or what I'd like to think is like deeper sense of self, then that any attention is always going to kind of be like a recharge. But I do think it's in front of what most of us are looking for, a deeper sense of self and a deeper sense of love of ourselves and to other people. I never get that sense from him.
It's like Trump talks a lot about his building the economy, but really he's just been the king of the attention economy. In terms of the attention economy, he's incredibly wealthy.
Oh yeah.
In terms of physical economy or like financial economy, I don't know how much money he's actually brought or contributed or has, but when it comes to attention, he has a lot of it. But the thing with attention is that it can deteriorate pretty quickly. It requires a lot of upkeep, a lot. I remember watching a video, I think it was Tyrese posted a video on YouTube about self-love. And he says the problem with a lot of people who are celebrities is that they get so much attention that when they fade from the public eye, they start doing crazy things just to get the attention again.
That's like Kanye syndrome, right?
Exactly. And it plays into something that I've noticed in my life, to try to pull it away so much from these external figures. But like in my life, the more attention I give to myself, the less I need it from other people. The more aware I am about like what my body's doing, or like how I look, or how I'm feeling, or what I'm thinking, the less I need somebody else to listen to how I'm feeling or what I'm thinking and stuff like this, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. It begs a lot of questions. I think I don't know if you heard me say before, it's like the shiny object era.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think our attention spans are, I don't want to say we don't have them anymore, but they're very they're kind of, we're keeping attention on many, many different things. And so we only give little bits of ourselves to things very quickly. Watching how people use Instagram is amazing to me. I mean, even when I'm on it, I don't spend more than a few seconds looking at it in an image. Yeah. And even determining if I love that image or not, and I don't, what does that even mean? It's just such a disposable aspect of my life. Like, I do like some of the art I see on Instagram, but I lived for many years without it, and probably wouldn't think much about it if it disappeared.
It's that in the past, there weren't so many things or people or things that we could interact with. Like if we had TV, we had a couple channels, or we had cable, maybe we had like 50 channels.
Right.
Now cable has 200, 300 channels, and internet's got unlimited channels on YouTube.
Right.
And Instagram is unlimited content basically, and Twitter's unlimited, and Wikipedia is unlimited. And that's just content and looking at stuff.
Yeah.
But then you can go on to like a dating app and meet tons of people. And I mean, depends on who you are, but like you can meet a variety of people, and then you can engage in conversation. Like for me, it's like, wow, how many freaking conversations am I in now? But it's just like, ooh, let me go for the new thing. Like there's so much opportunity for growth and new things that we can get really cluttered and we can start hoarding lots of things.
But don't most of those things just feel like shiny objects that we maybe stay interested in for a little bit and then we just
Yeah. You know, the challenge with hoarding though is that like you pick something and you're like, well, this might be useful in the future, so I'm going to hold on to it. Right? Like, oh, I downloaded this app. Oh, this might be useful in the future. I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
Oh, but then like I need to update it every time it updates. Oh, I don't want to update it. Okay, but I might use it. Or like I pay for a service. Oh, I might use it in the future. So I'm going to keep paying for it. I'm not using it now, but I'm going to keep paying for it because if I stop, they might charge me a higher rate to maintain it. Oh, I got to maintain it at the low rate.
Right. Well, it's like you go biking 3 times a year. So you're like, maybe I should get a bike rack.
Yeah. And I should buy some bike tools because, I had to fix the bike. Well, if I get the tool, then I can have it for a long time. And with tools, the nice thing about many tools is that they don't require maintenance for the tool.
No, they are the maintainer.
Yeah. But some, many tools are very sturdy and last for a long time. But many other things in life aren't.
Mm-mm. No, it's funny. I always think back to the 7 basic mechanic principles of physics. It's like the pulley. Oh gosh.
Oh, the like levers and pulleys and all those.
Yeah. There's like 7 basic mechanics. But I think about that in terms of like what do I like to keep for myself? I'm more interested in the tools that help me create things than I am necessarily in just having that one thing that I would use, I don't know, very occasionally. And this to me is like why I'm more into like I love that I think Berkeley in California has a tool library.
Mm-hmm.
And you go and you can rent a tool.
Yeah.
Or even just sign it out. I don't even know if you have to actually pay anything. And so if you don't think you're going to be using like a plane, one of those nice planes very often to smooth out it's like a wood surface, you just borrow it for the 10 days you need it and return it. I do. Anyway, now we're leaning into a much different conversation, but I feel like this time right now, getting back to my point, and then I know you might want to close up here soon, is just to, if we could pause a little bit more, take a little bit more time and just maybe assess some of the things that we've accumulated or some of the behaviors we've incidentally created without maybe recognizing that they happened, and just like, hey, do I want these? Do I need these things? Are these serving me? Like, do I even know that I'm doing it? And if you don't know you're doing something, that to me feels dangerous, or potentially dangerous.
It's like taking inventory, taking stock of the things that we have, whether they are tangible physical things or whether they're relationships or whether they're actions that we have, or these stories that we have and things like this. It's like, I was reading a paper a little bit the other day. It was about the balance between growth or reproduction and maintenance in organisms. So like in different environments, we become more focused on reproduction, and we become more focused in other ones. We become more focused on maintenance and survival. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think one of the challenges with growth, and I think our society in general is hyper-focused on growth, is that the more that we grow, the more things that we create and reproduce, being a very creative person, the more things that we create, the more stuff we got to maintain. Right?
Yeah.
I'm a person.
I think the most obvious version of that is
like, this is episode 51, right? Oh, great. I've made 51 episodes. Okay, now, but if I want to organize them or reorganize them and maintain them on the server, I have to pay for the server, and I have to like edit this. I have to edit that. That's a lot of work. Oh, and I have to tell people about them, and I have to maintain the social media channel or whatever to inform people that these episodes exist. And I have to maintain those relationships and conversations around the episode. I just want to make more episodes. No, but you need to do other stuff too. Oh,
It-
right? And the more that I do, the more expensive it becomes in terms of time and money and energy and attention and all this.
and it well, but it
So what do I let go of so that I
well,
can focus on like cultivating a few things? Haha.
to be
I
fair
don't want to
though,
like those things. I like creating things. And
but this isn't. But this is not a shiny object.
no, this one isn't, but
Well, and that to
it
me,
depends. It depends to whom it is. Like for some people, it might be a shiny object. This one, not so much, but like, I don't know. There are plenty of conversations or things I look at on Instagram or people I meet on a dating app that feels kind of like a shiny object. Not
oh
that they're
sure,
an object, but it's like the distraction. Ooh, ooh, wow, ooh, ooh, that excitement and like,
right. Well, you probably wouldn't choose. You're like, okay, I need to either focus X amount of time on my video podcast or on how much I maintain my Instagram like relationships. And for you,
arguably, a lot of people aren't watching the show or listening to it because I haven't maintained my social media relationships, and people don't even know about it that much, right?
true.
Because with a lot of social media, it's about maintaining and posting frequently and consistently so that the algorithms promote you and you're showing up more and people get into a rhythm of expecting things from you and what to expect of you, et cetera, et cetera.
You need to do more clips.
Yeah, but that requires a lot of maintenance, right? To come up with it. No, it's true though, but like to clip each video, like, okay, that adds another who knows how many minutes and time to clipping the video. But then I have to share the clips.
So, okay, you need a staff.
Yeah, which means I need, because it's a lot of things to maintain, I need more people to maintain it, basically, right?
Yeah. But I mean, hence an organization is called an organization, right?
Yeah, but we still, as humans, we have the limited things that we can maintain. Right?
No, I know. No, it's and it just, I mean, and then you get to a point too of sort of, human purpose or meaning, and then you're lost in this world of maintenance, and you're like, well, wait, I'm so in the world of maintenance that I don't know what I'm maintaining or what, or not what, but I don't know why I'm maintaining.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you pledge yourself so much to the maintenance of something, and yet you're tired, exhausted, don't feel like the return of whatever it is you're maintaining is actually feeding you or nourishing some part of you, then that to me seems to be like, well, so are you just a cog in your own machine?
And then do you let go of it so that you can go grow and maintain something else? Or focus on maintaining? Like if you get so stuck at a job that you don't enjoy, are you willing to let go of that job to try a new job and to like nurture that new job?
I hope so.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, I think I will speak to what I see as the artist in you, Jim, and that is the reason why you haven't maybe been as capital on the social media and the like awareness side is because you're still in an experimental stage of this, getting to understand what it does, how it works, how it operates, what are the connecting points. And I just think that's so much more important. I mean, I make so much music and I do next to nothing to put it out there. But you know what? At the end of the day, I don't want to say I don't care. I care about it for me. I care about how it serves me. And one day I hope to get more of it out there. But first and foremost, I have this incredibly lovely relationship with my music making that I'm like, I don't feel bad at all about the fact that it's not getting a lot of recognition.
Well, and for me, what you're doing is you're maintaining your relationship to music and you're maintaining your skills at making music, more so the promotion of the music and the distribution channel of your music.
Right.
And for me, I mean, a lot of this, starting this, just the same with starting, that book that I wrote earlier this year that I haven't published yet, right? But the idea was first and foremost to gain the skills and to maintain the skills and to practice speaking into a camera for 30 minutes straight, ad lib, and try to like make sense. I've done this over this is episode 51. I think most of the episodes have been solo episodes. So it's like at least 45 episodes of me mostly just speaking for 30 minutes straight. Pretty intense, right?
Yeah. Well,
so even if people don't watch it, it's like I've practiced this skill. So I feel much more comfortable doing a monologue for 30 minutes, like improvised monologue.
Yeah. No, I mean, the ones I've watched, I'm impressed with your, and you'll have pauses, which I appreciate too. You're not just filling up space. Yeah. So you might allow a 5-second or a 10-second pause so that you can consider something more thoughtfully. And I think that's just as important, to show in this high-speed world that you're allowed to take a moment in order to actually communicate something more mindfully. I don't think there's a lot of examples of that. And I think that in itself is just a good thing to expose people to.
In the skill of doing that while speaking to a screen in your basement alone, like it's a hard skill. It's much easier to talk to people when there's feedback and interaction. Oh my gosh, like this right here feels so much easier for me, you know. But it's similar to with Colbert, starting his show at home, and I'm sure Conan and many of the other people that were doing it. It's like speaking into a camera is tough when you don't see any reaction.
Right.
And you pause, and some of the pauses are intentional, and some of them are like, "Oh no, I'm still on camera. I should say something." Okay, I'm still on camera. Like, oh my god, I totally lost my train of thought. Where am I going? Where am I going? Say something.
Right. Yeah.
But I appreciate you pointing that out, because it's, again, looking at maintaining. What are we maintaining? So often maybe we look at the physical thing that we're trying to maintain, but sometimes it's the skill that we're maintaining. The muralist or the person who does like sidewalk chalk art, that person is often maintaining their skill, and they're maintaining their reputation or brand of the person who does that, not so much the maintenance of the thing that they did.
Right.
Yeah. Huh. Oh, speaking of maintenance, I think I need to go feed myself some food and some water. need to feast on water.
Yes, maintaining of the self is first and foremost.
Well, that's what Maslow would say, but I think most people, I don't really agree with the pyramid. I think many of us focus on philosophical things and forget about water.
Yeah, the pyramid's a nice idea.
Yeah. I think it's a good story, but from a building standpoint, it's not very accurate.
It would be customized, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
But, well then, sir.
Thanks for joining the show, Caleb. Glad to have you. Glad to have the listeners who are listening live or who are listening or watching afterwards. And hopefully I'll be back again tonight with, if I can find some rum to go with the apple cider and sparkling water. Because the debate might need it. Maybe I'll bring some popcorn too. Who knows? Good to see you, Caleb. Love you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Love you too, Jim.
Bye, everyone.